Hi guys, so I am here today to should I be smiling for this video? To talk to you about my bookish pet peeves slash tropes in books I absolutely hate. This is not an original concept, obviously. I've seen many people talk about bookish pet peeves and tropes that they hate or have on their blogs, on YouTube, and I just thought I wanted to contribute to that conversation because there are a variety of things that just really grate on me when I'm reading a book, and some of which can just instantly make me dismiss the rest of the book entirely because I cannot get over that one thing. Some of these are more like things that annoy me in an otherwise good book that I might still enjoy, so there are books that have these tropes in them that I've still liked. They've just not been as loved, perhaps because of this trope. Others are just like absolute no-goes. The book is dead to me. There are not, however, things like, say, like love triangles in this list, because not that I even think I've read that many love triangles, but that's something I think can be done well and can be done badly. So for me, it's not a big pet peeve or something that I avoid actively. However, these are things I would rather not come across in my literature, and without further ado, I'm going to get into them. So the first 2/3 kind of come under a like umbrella, and you will be able to tell what that is when I tell you what they are. And the first one is, you're not like other girls. I mean, I hate this in whatever media it comes in and if it appears in reality, but I hate books where either characters use the line like, you're not like other girls, or you're so different from other girls, or some sort of distinguishing between one female character and the rest of womankind. I hate that. I absolutely hate that. Like I said, I hate that in reality as well when people say things like that. But I still think there's this unfortunate tendency in some literature to perhaps paint not being like other girls as the best thing to be for a woman, because oh my goodness, if you were like other women. And perhaps either to sort of have love interests express that towards these female characters, or for the female characters to identify themselves that way. So like female protagonists are like, I'm so different from other women, I'm so unique and different, and I'm not like other women, I'm more like one of the lads, I'm not so shallow, or what other female stereotypes we're encompassing in this scenario. And I hate it. If that is put into a book with no like questioning, fair enough if somebody puts that into a book because, say, a love interest says it to another person and that person says, hey, watch it, that is not a compliment, that's different of course, but otherwise, no, I know I'm not going to get on with this writer. And like I said, my next one or two, because I think it's sort of like two things but that overlap, are the notion that all girls are mean, or the sort of queen bee type character that has like really no layers or depth to her and just is there to serve as a bit of like an antagonist, because what's an easy antagonist? A mean girl, because aren't girls all mean? That I hate. I mean, why should I have to defend myself? But in my experience, most of my closest and most supportive friendships are with other women. And I hate that stereotype around women. I think it just perpetuates young women and older women to think about themselves and their peers in a negative way, and I hate it, and I see it far too often in books. Still, like modern books that will have characters saying, yeah, well, girls are mean, that's what we do. Or, nah, you just have to expect that from a group of girls. That is not a thing. If somebody is doing something bad, in any circumstance, there should be something more layered to it, there should be motivation behind it, there should be layers to it, and a good writer is able to do that without falling into the stereotype of, well, girls are mean. And that then applies to that whole sort of like queen bee, there's a group of girls and one of them is horrible to the rest of them because she wants to be on top. And fair enough if there is a reason for you including a character like that and then exploring them in depth, but if you don't, then no go. Moving away from this topic though to something a little bit different is bad Scottish accents slash dialects. So this is both personal to me and also I think a wider pet peeve because it could apply to any accent, I assume. I'm sure you have read books where characters are from your country or region who supposedly speak with dialects from your region or accents from your region, and they are atrocious. So for me, this happens all too often with books that feature Scottish characters that are not written by Scottish authors. And that's not to say non-Scottish authors can't write good books with Scottish characters, because I've also came across that, but sometimes it's like, have you ever even heard a Scottish person? I'm like, they're real, they're not like leprechauns or fairies. Like, you can't just make it up, and they don't speak like that, and oh my goodness, it drives me mad. However, there are books I love that have this in it. So for example, I think the Scottish accent / dialect used by one of the main characters in Gail Carragher's series is not great, but I still love that series, so like I can forgive it that, but when I hear it, particularly if I then listen on audiobook, it grates on me, and it has good chance of lowering my rating of that book by a star, because it takes me out of the story as someone with a Scottish accent, as someone who uses Scots language in their everyday life, who is familiar with more Scots literature. It takes me out of the story, so I hate when that happens, because it just interrupts what is perhaps otherwise a really positive reading experience for me. So I just feel like if you're going to include a character that has a dialect or accent different from yours, just like a little bit more research, just a little bit, which means not just chucking in the words I and Ken in between otherwise completely anglicised speech and hoping that that will convince everyone that you've written a Scottish character. The next one is that looks equal personality. This is something that for me, I have read the most in thrillers. That's not to say that it is more common in thrillers than other literature, it's just in my reading experience that's where I've come across it the most, and always been a bit shocked by it, the fact that modern writers can still write things like this. And it can go both ways, so I have read both descriptions of positive characters in, say, a thriller. I'm like, I've got something in my mind here where there was one character describing her mum and how wonderful her mum was and how classy and everybody loved her and how kind, and she had a tiny waist, as if that's part of her characterisation, and it goes hand in hand with her goodness. And then you'll get on the flip side in the same book them describing a kind of petty, irritable, dislikable person and emphasising that she is larger than her mum, like that she's I suppose bigger than your average size, she's not stylish, she doesn't wear makeup, she's not pretty according to the narrator, and that this isn't challenged in any way, that this is just the way that the author has chosen to define good and bad characters by featuring their appearance and measurements within that. To be honest, I don't think there's really any reason to include somebody's measurements unless it's pivotal to the plot, especially when you read a lot of, or see in films, the discussion of ideal female measurements, which are like virtually impossible for 99% of women to achieve. But I hate when people are characterised by looks, and this obviously goes into something a lot deeper and can go into the extremes where you see a lot of villainy being depicted with like physical markers, so like scars on baddies, and that indicating to you that they're a baddie, which is something that my friend Jen over at Jen Fee Campbell has done some amazing videos on in the past, that association between villainy and deformity and how unhealthy it is. And so like I think again obviously that really disturbs me when I read that, so I will link that video down below because she speaks about that in a much more articulate way. But oh my goodness, like when we just talk about looks and size and anything like that to characterise characters is so lazy. You know, give them a personality please. We then have rape for the sake of moving the plot along without exploring the consequences. So this is something I have unfortunately read quite frequently in literature, particularly things like historical, crime or fantasy literature, where female characters, predominantly female characters this is happening to, but obviously it's terrible regardless of what character it happens to, but more often than not it happens to side female characters in order to depict a situation or another character's flaws. So perhaps let's emphasise how bad this guy is by making him rape women, or let's emphasise how terrible the situation is by all the rape that's going on. It's sort of like, but it's done in such a casual manner, and the repercussions of that sexual violence towards these female characters is not explored. I find that really disturbing. I find that attitude to writing about rape in that it's just like this plot device that requires no further exploration than that, really, really disturbing. And I think although sexual violence can be handled really well in literature and dealt with really well, and it's something we should be talking about, it can also be handled incredibly badly, and that sort of casual flinging it in left, right and centre is really, really irritating. But those are the big ones. Those are the ones that really rub me up the wrong way. I think in general I'm pretty easygoing when it comes to literature. There aren't loads of things that I absolutely say no to. There's things that I think can be done well and can be done badly, but those are the things that whenever I do read them I'm like, no, not again, I don't want to read this, please no. With the caveat of the accent dialect one being that it doesn't necessarily ruin the book in the same way that the other ones might. I would love, however, to hear about your bookish pet peeves or tropes that you hate in literature. You know, we can't love everything, so let's just have a whinge in the comments down below. I'd love to chat more about these with you guys, and you might actually remind me of some that I've forgotten of in the moment. So I would love to hear from you. So until next time, happy reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye guys.